People talk about artificial intelligence, which is just like you're just making extra words. Like it's just intelligence. Like the universe is expressing itself always. Yeah. Why is what we created any different than what bees create when they make a beehive? Like that's their technology. Are we gonna damn that because it was like bee made? You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Like us creating the internet was the universe creating itself through its expression through humanity and the internet, and it's like interwebble algorithms.
I'm totally using that interwebble.
Are just like, like paint pours of the universe's algorithm.
Yes.
Like it's just exactly. Yeah.
When you least expect it, or even when you do expect it, things turn out better than you thought they would, better than you assumed or could have imagined. All situations lead to your highest good. Everyone you encounter can see your light, whether you realize it or not. And even when you're feeling it or not, it's just a part of your base vibration and who you are. I speak focus into the areas that you want to expand in your life, in your mind, in your environment. I speak inspiration coming from unexpected sources, people, and places. Signs and symbols landing in your path to remind you that you got this. You're loved. You're appreciated. Great things always come to you because you put out great things. Loving energy, kindness, attention, care to the people in your life. So thank you. I speak it over you, over your life, that you find everything that you need in today and in the next day and for the rest of your life. That you can just feel open and receive all the love that's coming at you from all the different angles.
Thanks for tuning into the ReMinders podcast of all the things you could be doing on the internet or with your life right now. Appreciate you spending some time with us. Got a very special 50th episode lined up for us today. Just got back from Pittsburgh visiting with some good friends out there that I met last summer at Nelson Ledges for Grateful Fest. Sean and Cass from the Very 8 podcast like to put together an annual community gathering called Space Camp. So that was really the call, the signal that got me out there and connected with these people. So highly recommend tuning in, especially if you're trying to tap into some portals of connection and synchronicity. It's very much been that for myself, and I can tell a lot of other people as well. So this was a really beautiful extension of their efforts of getting like-minded heads and hearts together. So on screen you'll see me, to my left is Paige, then her sister Madi, and then Madi's partner Griff. So we had a really fun and beautiful flowing conversation. We do spend the first 40 minutes centered around meditation and yoga. If you're a total noob to that field, hopefully this can provide a bit of intrigue. I find that these terms, yoga and meditation, can feel a little gatekeepy and maybe a bit of a turn off for people that don't already have like a personal, intimate relationship, an experiential relationship with yoga or meditation. So I do find some mental translations, some mental substitutes can be helpful. Like for meditation, I like to think of it as just exercising focus, practicing presence, just tuning into spatial awareness. And yoga really translates to union with the universe. So I think of it as just practicing being one with the universe, or tuning into that reality. Hopefully soon we can come up with some useful slang for yoga and meditation that feels a little bit more resonant with contemporary culture. Regardless, this is a really fun and beautiful conversation. There's never a dull moment. So as has become tradition, I do kick off with a little grounding check-in. So if you're listening and you are doing something active, you don't have the luxury of closing your eyes and whatnot, please still just let this wash over you and be a reminder of tuning back into, mindful presence, to refocus on your breathing and the feeling of whatever it is that you may be actively doing. If you're driving, doing chores, just tuning into how does it feel? What's the sensation present in whatever it is that you're engaging in. All right, let's dive on in.
Who wants to get grounded with me?
Me.
Good.
I do.
Yum. Sweet. Well, I'm going to get all comfortable and close my eyes
Following your lead.
and come back to my breathing. You're welcome to do the same or similar. Just noticing the natural flow, not forcing, letting the laughter be laughed and heard.
Ow.
Now bringing a little bit more depth into your inhale. Bring it all the way down into the belly, into your root. And after a good inhale, allow yourself some space to notice what that fullness feels like before letting it out. And at the end of an exhale, let yourself feel and appreciate that gap of space, that moment of emptiness. I like to visualize like roots extending out of my feet, out of my body, out of my spine, into the earth. Got a little ways to get there, up on the whatever floor we're on.
3 floors of roots.
Mm-hmm. Create yourself a little tree. Get all the way down there. Just visualizing that connection extending through the earth towards the core. Just feeling that stability and connection to the planet and to one another. Tuning more consciously into the mycelium networks, modes of communication and connection. Rooting into the chosen purpose, the mission for the day, for the week, just for the moment. Just inviting deep listening, smooth expression, some fun, some fulfillment, some connection, some goofiness. Coming back to the space. Weeble, 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 weeble. Yeah. And we're back.
I like your audible interludes between grounding meditation.
It's the tuning of the
It's
frequency.
the doorway, it certainly is.
Yeah. Audible doorway. I'm about it. Yeah.
I don't know if and what will be seen as me reaching for Maddie's hand with her eyes closed and putting my hand in her hot tea.
I have a question. What were you guys giggling?
That.
About
Yeah,
that?
I went
I was
to
gonna say, was
reach
that what
for
it
her
was?
hand and just found boiling liquid.
I had my tea in my lap.
This finger is feeling special
Scorched.
right now.
That's funny. It's funny because it reminded me of. So for Christmas this year, I suggested doing a little bit of a different type of gathering with my family. My oldest brother usually hosts a little gift exchange at his house. And I'm like kind of over the whole like commodified holiday sort of spirit of, just because it feels obligatory to me, and just gift giving is not really my love language of choice.
Right there with you.
Yeah.
I've seen it spoken. The thing about it is it's intimidating because whenever it is spoken in a cool way, like you're really wonderful at doing, it feels so great to receive. Because someone gives you like a little basket and it has like all these thought out things that majority of them are probably made. Real gift givers, you make a lot of things, but you'll find like the perfect thing you can buy someone. So that for me has never been, and I relate big time for you, and it's intimidating, and it made me really feel into like Christmas is commodification of love. I'm obligated to buy something.
I think that's what it is. Like, if you can't think of something to get somebody and you're just getting them a gift to get them a gift, then it doesn't feel as, I don't know. Special. I get your annoyance with it in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about Jessa Reed. Like, through her new podcast, I have come to get introduced to the idea of PDA, pathological demand avoidance.
Whoa.
Which takes a minute to think about, but essentially just not wanting to do anything that's expected of you or demanded of you, avoiding demand.
Wow.
In a pathological way. Present. So that's part of it as well, I noticed. But anyway, so I suggested that we do like a show and tell, like sort of a share circle. Like, if you choose to bring gifts, like that's welcome. Anything's welcome. Just like open up a platform for other love language expressions as well. It could be like put together a slideshow, show, because my dad's got like an infinite library of photos that he's taken. It's like, bro, like get you a little like focused story out of it, rather than like, all right, let's sit down and like watch 4 hours of random stream of anything from vacation to the bird that he saw on the way to the thing.
That ties in like the creativity I think that you were drawing on with like a very thoughtful gift that's homemade, or
that's when the love language is expressing itself in a way that when you're like you feel that, and it's like it softens you up, and you're like there is maybe something more to me having this towards this bite towards the like it's okay, well it's a demand avoidance. I wasn't able to supply people with things maybe due to income. I've experienced that in my life where I was like, I can't do Christmas because I can't do Christmas. It didn't change for me. I'm still surviving over here. My income didn't suddenly get better and I was able to afford all these things. I'm stupid early 20-year-old's boy, you know what I mean? But you get into it and then you meet someone down the road after you've built these things and they show you other ways of that love language, and you're like, oh yeah, that's me just coloring really heavy. And you're like, oh, I see it this way because blah blah blah. It's your experience, but it's true nonetheless. You know what I mean? So but let's be honest, society wise, that's what's happening.
I feel like there's a lot of stuff in the world, and I don't think people need more stuff.
Right.
Unless it's a candle. I think I can get anyone a candle, and I'm like, you'll like a specific candle. I'm like, this, But I think like getting creative, like if like you're really good with words or you're really good with like images, like like write a letter or like a card. Like that's kind of lost. Like
I was gonna say I feel like my some of my favorite gifts I've received have been like thoughtful cards and like a nice note in it. I actually found, I don't know if I said to you a few months ago, I found a nice card that you wrote me. I don't remember what it was for. It was probably my birthday or something.
That's sweet.
Oh.
Yeah, especially when you can like hold on to it and come back to it at a later date.
Yeah, which is a way easier thing to also hold on to as well.
Yeah.
It's just like...
That was always I would re-gift items that I had, because I would always have a lot of knickknacks, and I don't keep a lot of things, but I will hold on to some small stuff, and I would re-gift items like that with a handwritten card. And I still have a stack of like just classic thank you cards that I would like spin to be like, thank you for existing, happy birthday.
Love that.
Thank you Santa Claus, Merry Christmas, and just but it wouldn't be, but that always did, that's a big emotion that I have felt. So I hear you there big time.
Yeah.
It's almost like, what are you, like, a good question to ask yourself if you're having that PDA moment where you're like, I feel so resistant to this, is like, ask yourself, where do you feel really abundant and like really confident? Like, if you have a lot of knickknacks, or like you really are loving the way you've been writing, or like even like cooking. Like, I think if you're going to a gathering being like, this is my offering, I just made this like great recipe, I just figured out, like something that brings you joy in doing it. And then if you can like connect those dots, that's like the best way to show someone you love them. It's like, give them the best kind of version of yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely tried the like, all right, just be creative, like in that sort of vein. Like, started with music. I remember I gave like my family this very cringy like covers album that I put together, and it was just like, I'm sure no one listened to it more than half of the time. I hope to God that they didn't, you know what I mean? What?
How many hours did you put into it?
Oh, so many, you know, like it was, because part of it was like the first album that I like put together myself. So a bit of it was practice, you know,
that's
like,
awesome.
but it was also very terrible. Like, I was a very not confident singer at the time. Anyway, not to get too deep into it, but that wasn't it, you know? And then like, I've like made paintings and art stuff for people, and like, whatever. Last year, I did the handwritten notes and stuff, and like that was like a beautiful moment that I had, even though again PDA, I put it off to the very last minute and did it like the night before or something, or the day of, I can't remember. Probably both actually. But yeah, like I remember like getting just emotional like making those, and that felt like a gift to myself too, to like really feel into like the love that I have for these people, you know, rather than just like, all right, capitalistic harvest time, take the rest of my money, Uncle Sam, and like hopefully my family realizes that translates to my love for them or something, because I sacrificed my time to get that resource and then shelled it all out because that's what you're supposed to do, you know, type shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that to say that like, so I was happy about like presenting this as like an opportunity for any love language to come through. And so I was thinking about what to do. Again, the PDA came up because I was just like, I had the idea, but I didn't have like a whole lot of motivation to like get excited about putting something together. Like I didn't want to like sing a song because that just feels a little self-indulgent, like that sort of thing, whatever. And I ended up doing a meditation to kick it off. The reason why I brought this whole story up was because you laughing at the very, not the tail end, the opposite of the tail end, the beginning there in the first minute, made me think about when we did that as a family. Like my little nephew started like nervously laughing like immediately. and I just heard his mom be like, she didn't say that, she's very sweet, but you know, like just like a behave type of moment.
It sounds like your dad is like an archivist of sorts, archivalist or something.
Yeah, you could
so
say
I'm
that
sure
in a manner of speaking.
that first demo is gonna live on way beyond you.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd breeze past that part of the story.
So what did other people do for the show and tell? Was it...
What else? Shanna, my sister, prompted a question of like what everyone was looking forward to in 25.
That's cool.
Things like that.
Nice.
My dad ended up facilitating like 3 games.
Heck yeah.
So that ended up being the majority of the events. Stuff like that, yeah.
He was like, wait, I'll be a coach, I'll be...
Yeah. Yeah, he's a man of many talents for sure, not just the picture taking. So yeah, he went in that direction.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll organize something for you.
Yeah. Anyway, so that just felt like a bit of a extra note on the spiral of that moment, because when that happened with a family, like it made me nervous, and like it was like hard to get back into the grounded space, and like so that did make me nervous to a degree, but I felt like I was able to like be more resilient with it, like all right, let me just like whatever, because that's part of it, like that's part of meditation, is like not giving all the focus to the one thing that distracts you or catches your attention in some way, right? And anyway, so I just wanted to share that.
I like that P needed to know. She's like, wait, what happened?
Oh yeah, I did need to know.
I was gonna let it slide, but I was also curious.
Yeah, I'm just nursing my finger here, but I'm just...
It was that hot?
Oh yeah.
It's
Boiling. Oh
fresh.
shoot, my bad.
Would you like to get a Band-Aid?
Nope.
Do you need a bit of water?
No, it's fine. It's fine actually. Yeah.
Well, see, speaking of meditation, we went to this
a event?
Saturday night meditation circle last night. That was actually pretty dope. I highly recommend you guys tap into the Deep Dive Dream Center?
Yes, that sounds great.
Deep Dive Dream Center.
Yeah, and what was it, Squirrel Hill or something?
No, it was in Oakland. It was near, kind of between Pitt and CMU.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So,
Super cool.
It was a cool,
Yeah, the guy who owns the space, his name's Kevin. He was very sweet, welcoming, had a really great voice. He does voiceover work and stuff like that.
Yeah, he did have a great voice.
I called it for sure. I was like, you have to. Like, it's just almost that classic voice that you've definitely heard, like, in commercials or something, you know? Like, yeah. And it was fun. What did you think? What was your experience?
I liked it a lot. I liked that there were few people there. That was kind of nice.
When you went in, like, what was the structure of the event? Like, what did it look like when you go in there?
I mean, the small room we walked in, there were probably like 4 or 5 other people there at that point, just sitting on the ground. And
got some tea.
Then
get comfy.
He kind of did he did an introduction, and then we got right into the meditation.
Well, actually, he suggested doing a bit of stretch out first.
Yes.
Yeah, which actually I wanted to mention to you, Madison, because you facilitate yoga. I was commenting afterwards that it's interesting that like yoga class, it's a very yin yang symbol, between these two classes where they each have like a little bit of the other in it. Like a yoga class is like a little bit of meditation in the shavasana. And then like a meditation class might have a little bit of stretching at the beginning, but like I would love to have like an hour yoga class and then an hour meditation in shavasana afterwards, you know. Anyway, so
that's like what my sensei, my teacher, what she does. She'll actually start with a 30-minute meditation. Really gets you into your body, really starts to pull apart any energy and really get you deep in the breath. And then by that point you're in a trance. And she's so fucking good. She's so great at leading that meditation. And then she'll hold shavasana for 10 minutes, which is really good. But I like it because yoga is traditionally, as a practice developed to prepare you for meditation. Right. It's to prepare the body for so that the mind can relax.
Yeah.
So I remember we talked about that at Grateful, and you were we were talking about how we were oh yeah, we always have at least 5 minutes for shavasana. Me and some other yoga teachers were talking about that. And you were can we get a little more? 10, 15 minutes
20,
shavasana. Yeah. And then that made me think. After that, I was I've been way more liberal with it.
Yeah.
Because honestly, because you can feel the energy of a room. If we're in a pose, I can feel that some people are not into it, depending on all the different poses we could get into. But everyone is out in shavasana.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna complain about one.
I agree. Yeah, and if you got an engagement right after yoga class, probably not the move. You know what I mean? You want to give it. You're going to give it a cushion. Mm-hmm. Give it its space.
Yeah, you gotta respect the time. You don't know when people are going.
I feel. Yeah. So the structure was basically after a bit of stretch out, shake it out type of thing. He would lead a maybe 20-25 minute guided meditation, and then we would all get alert again and get back in the room and discuss, because most everybody was laying down. Shavasana kind of deal. We had a bunch of cushions and pillows and whatever to get comfy with. That's awesome. And then we would just discuss he would just open the floor if anyone had a feeling or thought to share, and then rinse and repeat 4 times. There was 4 meditations.
Whoa. 4 meditations.
Yeah.
It was 2 hours.
It was 2 hours. Yeah.
I will say I was having kind of a hard time. I feel I had a slight headache, and I feel getting into it at different points. I think by the end, it was definitely rewarding, and I felt very relaxed after. But I'm definitely glad we did that prior to we got dinner, and I was I don't really want to do this kind of in my head, but I'm glad that we went through with that, and to know about that space now too. I would definitely go back there.
What else do they offer through the space? She was mentioning that he's a life coach.
Yeah, he's a life coach, and I don't.
They do things on Tuesdays. They have a Friday thing and a Saturday thing. I know next Saturday is something about any feelings. I don't remember what the name of it was. A feel your feelings type sesh. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, it sounds like it's mostly guided meditation and I guess one-on-one sessions. Yeah.
Well, I asked that because more of those things are popping up.
Oh, good.
You know what I mean? A lot of places that's more of a thing. that you're finding, I don't know, being offered where people are like, here's a room and a Facebook event and I don't know, $10 tickets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there are so many trained people that have offerings and abilities in that are now feeling more confident and seeing other avenues of like, I can make money by posting this on YouTube and then doing events and then, you know, and I love that.
Me too.
So it definitely hit the spot where I'm like, oh, that sounds great and I wonder what it looked like and if there'd be more stuff like it, you know, to say we could do it again, but
yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's a recurrent thing, so I would recommend.
If you guys were to like imagine, like based off of that experience and like maybe having been to like yoga classes before, like what would your perfect, like if you could design, like you have an empty room and maybe you just have a few people in it and you have a facilitator, like what would be a nice balance of like movement or like guided meditation? Like let's say you have like 1 hour.
1 hour?
Okay, wait, no, 2 hours.
I was
1
gonna
hour's cool.
say, I just think a lot. I was telling him after the what we did yesterday, the meditation. When we went on the yoga retreat with the meditation that Dom led with the gongs, I think about that a lot, and I was telling him as well, not to get away from the question, but just after that, I did a journal entry, and I kind of forgot about it. Like initially, it was pretty impactful, and then like a couple months later, I came back to it, and it's something that I definitely think about a lot. But yeah, so the gongs and that meditation. Did she do yoga prior?
She did like a crazy yin class, I think.
Yes.
She did like a deep yin.
Okay,
like,
I'm about that.
That's my
really
ideal.
good. And she's like,
It must be.
her name's Dom, and she's kind of like, her thing is like, she's kind of like dominatrix. Like she's like hardcore. She'll be like push you to your limit, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
like physically, like there was one pose I remember from that I remember having like a breakthrough moment where we were laying on our backs and we had straps.
Yes.
And you just had your leg up in the air and then you had the strap around the like foot. And it was just like, okay, bend your knee, okay? Pull it as hard as you can, right? Now start to straighten your leg. And then your leg will shake. And it's like you have to like keep, and she has you in it for like 10 minutes on both sides.
That's the one I remember
And-
from that.
Yeah, you have to surrender.
As well.
And you unlock so much in your like fascia and like deep in your body that if you can just like sit with it, it like brings up so much. And then I think she did like gongs and stuff after that. So then it was just a sound bath, like deep sound bath.
I just
and
think
the
it's cool
gong
what
bath.
that brings out.
Yeah.
That you're saying that they're, you know, through vibration, stretching of areas and movement of our body and all the ways that we maybe move at the very least, brings out things that we store in us and
So much.
you know, and it hits us in this memorable way. Because I thought that sound bath that Nelson's on the beach
Oh, that
that
was
dude did,
really good. Yeah.
and it was memorable to me because we were under the sun and it was just beating on us, throwing like t-shirts over our eyes just to be able to enjoy it. So we were just getting cooked. It was genuinely, it was a meditation because there was this thing that held you in it. You know, a lot of times if you're like really sitting down and really have the opportunity for that, and there's like, keep hearing planes traveling overhead or like those small things.
Yeah.
Those are just, you know, grist for the mill, you know, it's right. It's
Totally.
like lean into it a little bit deeper. And I think a few of us did, maybe a few of us didn't, but I got out of that and I was just like, thanks, man. Like, give me your business card. Can we do an event and have you there?
Yeah,
'Cause
He was really
he was good.
Yeah.
But it's just that sound washing over you and that vibration, the releasing of stuff. It's like, you know, how much, you know, history-wise, we don't have a 10,000 year history of all of the findings that the ancestors knew. There's civilizations before us that knew all about the ways our bodies stored stuff, you know, and actually why yoga and actually why sound. I mean, they were curing us in humans in much different ways than we are nowadays. You know, probably ways
Much
then.
less profitable. I feel like we also
That's
don't.
the thing.
Well, they're not healing, so we're not healing and we're making money. That's the structure.
It's so backwards.
You know, back then it's like you're
That's a
with
business model.
Earth, so Earth takes care of a lot. You stay in tune with the right.
Yeah.
You know, we're not eating foods with a lot of stuff inside of it. We're staying natural with the world around us.
I think it's a lot of distraction as well, so that we're not focused on our bodies because we're,
Exactly.
engaging in whatever. But
Yeah.
We're all living in computers.
That too.
Or computers are telling us, how we need to live, and it's like
That too.
this thing from this store. Meanwhile, that store has this shady stuff behind the scenes,
Seed
and how
oil.
that, exactly, or these, preservatives or whatever that are impacting us, and it's just like, we're not, the main point being, we're not healing ourselves the ways that maybe are most effective, and I think us getting access to all the other awful, crappy ways is now going to make us find value in the holistic. Can sound do it to us? Screw this drug over the counter. What if this giant gong? If I just stand there and just, meditate, how do I feel about that?
And can we turn on those self-generating systems in other ways rather than just necessarily like taking external, things to collaborate with, whether it be man-made or plant-made or
Still
earth-made. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it can help 100%.
They can.
And that goes back to actually how I wanted to answer your question, but I want to comment on. Well, I had the thought of like, to your point of us having a deeper relationship with the planet in the past, our ancestors having had that. It makes me think like, the original corporation, Earth, like the ecology, ecosystem, like that was the original structure that we like operated in. That was the system, and it like is self-generating and, recycling its own energy in ways that like I can barely comprehend, but I trust it for sure.
Right.
And the other thing I was thinking earlier than that was I wanted to comment on the grist for the mill idea, like in meditation, of like whatever sounds were happening while you're in that experience, like that's like fuel for the fire, as I like to say. And it made me think about like, when we're in meditation, like we're literally tuning into like the moment, right? The oneness. So it's like in that deep meditation, like it kind of is a reminder that all of these sounds and happenings, like all of them are a part of the I am, like the true identity of me, like it's
thing you have to accept.
A part of, exactly, a part of it, part of this, so like not to get lost in its energy, to see it as separate and then get like funneled into this portal of like otherness, but like there's me being a bird, whatever, like, that type of thing.
Or these dang airplanes. It's always it's the jets for me when I'm outside. I'll hear that and I'm like, okay, come on, integrate in here.
Or sirens or whatever. Like, but did you guys see was there a fire across the street? Did you guys see that yesterday?
When you go to the light at the end of Progress Street, fire.
Yeah, and like I think it was a church of sorts.
Yeah.
Oh, the church across.
We heard the sirens and
Something was smoking.
Yeah.
I thought about it because of the sirens. They were like wild. Like it almost like bugged me out at one point because it was just like the cacophony of like sirens and like the honking of the fire truck. It was just kind of a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everyone's all right.
Yeah, I know.
That church down there makes me wonder if
I don't think it's really in use.
That's what my
They seemed chill. Like there was a
but-
whole group that was kind of just chilling, but then there was a couple dudes on ladders. I almost was wondering if it was like, if I hadn't heard the sirens, I might have thought it was like a training demo, like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Type of thing. But anyway, back to your question about like how to fill an hour of like,
It could be an hour and a half.
how to fill a chunk of time.
A chunk of time, yeah. No limitations on it.
Yeah, well, my first thought was like medicine facilitation, because I do feel like psychedelics pairing with yoga and meditation can be really powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Because like I'm not a meditation total newbie. Like I wouldn't say that I'm like deeply skilled in it either. But yeah, yesterday was a bit of a challenge, I would say, and 2 hours is like a bit to digest for a newbie.
that is deep end.
Yeah, but like things like psychedelics can really like open that space, and to have a facilitation while in that openness, I think is has a lot of potential for benefit.
Is there a particular medicine that would be your first choice?
If we're talking about an hour, like ketamine lasts about an hour, and I feel like that's a really like gentle on and off ramp, and like just kind of a little like in and out kind of experience for that touching the moment in that way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would say maybe mushrooms, but that's a retreat. You know what I mean?
That's
you need
like,
all day for that.
You don't want people driving in or out on the same day.
No, that's not an hour thing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts.
No.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I said earlier, like definitely, I would start with yoga personally because I feel like what you said, like getting the body calm enough to access like a calm mind is a big thing for me. Because you were mentioning being physically uncomfortable yesterday, and that's distracting, right?
Yes, like I felt like I needed to stretch my neck and like a lot of.
Yeah.
So
Them
So I
doing
like to do
like a
yoga and
yoga
then-
mat
I agree with that.
would be nice so that you could just pop up and down dog it if you need to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just
No.
be smooth and quiet about it, but absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, yoga is preparation for meditation. That's
Yeah.
and
Preparation
or-
for death as well, like the death of the ego, the death of the body. All
That's
of
what
it.
corpse pose is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I like when you do you guys do this? Like, have you had this experience in classes where like you're in shavasana, and then you go like, bring your right arm up and overhead, and then roll onto your side into like the fetal position. So it's like you go from like corpse pose into the fetal position.
I never thought about it like that, but yeah, that is like how I
took
tend
a
to
class
get
and
at.
someone said that, and I'll
Yeah.
like integrate that sometimes. But it's like you're reborn. You're not the same person who showed up on your mat.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Cool.
Because like you feel it. Like I've taught enough that I'm like, you all just let go of shit. You know what I mean? Like you didn't just get exercise in for the day,
Right.
and you didn't just like check off like a goal. You like actually like were breathing deeply. You like made space in your body. Like right, you come up to that like cross-legged seat, the Sukhasana, and you're like, you feel different. Like you let something go. Or my favorite thing to do is like when you're in fetal position, be like, okay, notice how like empty you feel. Like there's not, the thoughts racing like they might have been at the beginning of class when you came in with whatever you came in with. And so you have this space. I'll also have them set an intention at the beginning of class, and I'll be like, okay, like remember your intention, like fill the space with that. And like then people have like all this like creative and like spaciousness where it'll be like, okay, imagine what would like a moment in time look like for you to bring more of that into your life from here on. So it's like fill that space, which I like am conflicted about sometimes, because sometimes I'm like, I should let them sit with emptiness. Like emptiness is so beautiful, but it almost feels like sleep unless you're like trained in like really being a container and a holding emptiness.
Knowing how to focus.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
you're activating that like third eye intuition so much by the time you get to that place. Like you're so clear, there's nothing else, no other chatter in the way. So I think it's a really good practice to like visualize, to like actually, because like meditations are all like, guided meditations many times are like visualization based.
Right.
So they're like giving you space to create a vision in your mind, because we're constantly telling a story and visualizing things.
Exactly.
So to do that with intention and without maybe the stress or anxiety in your body in that moment is like, I think, really powerful.
That absolutely,
It is.
absolutely helpful
That's
for
well said,
rewiring in that way.
Yeah. Well said.
Totally. Yeah, love it. I mean, I also had an inspiration a bit on that wavelength last night. I was thinking about like adding music to it, like really intentional music, and that being like, 'cause as a musician, like playing at bars and shit, like it's exhausting. Like it's clearly not my target audience, and I feel like a meditation room, a yoga room, like is more so. It's not necessarily like there's not a well-grooved path in the industry, you know what I mean, around like having intentional music experiences that are paired with yoga and or meditation, mindfulness, I'll say,
Hey, that's how the river valleys form. Water just gets poured somewhere and it carves its own way.
Yeah, right.
If you're like, all right, I'm going to pour my energy into this place, it's like you might find out someone's like, this is a mandatory. It's not, we're going to book him once a month. It's like, no, we're doing this every other week, Shanti. Like, really getting good feedback, I know I like that idea. It makes me think of, I've been reading Dune lately and found this guy on YouTube that makes music to go with certain books.
Oh, cool.
And I'm just like, here's this guy carving out. He was like, I don't know. He was like, I don't know, I'll put out some music to like popular books.
That's so funny.
People, 200,000 views.
Oh,
He's like,
sure.
the guy was
Yeah.
like, you know, just made the whole channel doing this. Now he's like hundreds of books he's done it for.
Love that.
And I'm like, I sit
Yeah.
down and we were doing something where I would normally start my morning differently the other day. Found that and started, and I was like, no, I have to stop. I'm reading.
Yeah.
And it just
Yeah.
it like had me in. So
Sets
a
the
small
space, yeah.
element of music put in somewhere where it might be unusual to you might actually really like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like they'll have something, some generic, like yesterday there was like a
Yes.
soundtrack,
Yeah.
but like a live, curated, like playing to the moment.
Who can feel it?
Whoa. Yeah.
Who can
that's
feel
jazzy.
that out? That's like Claudia and Shaggy when we were at Nelson's.
Oh my god, that was
They did that.
the
Shaggy.
the guy who was doing the pan drums.
Hand
Hand
yeah.
pans.
Oh,
That's right. He
Yes.
was like, I'm just gonna riff off of you, and she was like, okay.
He was, and like
That
the
was so
whole
good. I
time,
forgot all about that.
They're
I did
communicating
too.
to each other.
Yes.
So like he's with
They're
her and she's like
collaborating.
giving him head nods and they're like in a
100%.
space. And we all get out of that like, oh, that was the best yoga class.
I didn't even participate in the yoga. I kind
Oh,
of
I
just
loved
like
it.
laid there
Yeah,
and
you were
meditated a bit,
chilling, yeah.
and I also came out of it like I felt like I
Yeah.
don't know.
Buzzing.
I love that you brought this particular yoga session up because I was thinking about it earlier when you were talking about being in the sun for the sound bath, which I regrettably missed. I wasn't part of the
You
sun.
guys were in that
But,
sunspot.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay.
during that yoga.
I was
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
sun
yeah.
Tell your
spot.
story. I think you're
yeah,
right.
I know what you're talking about. But I was gonna say Sprat just fucking like, cooking in the sun during the. And he talked about it for the next like 3 hours.
Sprat was
He was
so
cooking, and it was
He
so
was.
funny. He's like, I thought I was gonna get some burn service.
This Sprout was so funny
I was
during
like, maybe
that.
should have got some
He
shade.
was like had these little one-liners. Like every 30 seconds, he'd be like, "Oh, damn, this is hot."
He was kind of like
He couldn't put it down the whole time, but he suffered.
I feel like
He was doing hot yoga. The rest of us were like chilling.
I was also in the sun. I mean, I wasn't doing the yoga, but he was so funny during that because I was just like, I would like tune in and just kind of like giggle to myself because he was talking to you too, and he was like, Maddie. And you would like go over and kind of like move his leg or something now. But everybody else is sort of in it and like understands not to talk. But Sprat's just like,
I mean, if you're in pain, like,
no, totally.
do what you gotta do to get
It
out of
added like a different element, and
It was very funny
very
and endearing.
It was
I
very-
loved it.
And I
What
love
a
that-
guy.
very funny.
At the end, someone lit a joint, and I grabbed it and started passing it around.
Yeah, you guys facilitated joint passing.
Like in the
At the
yin,
end?
in the yin, which
I
is
remember
great.
that now, yeah.
That was like something I've never done, and I was like, that was so like,
that was it.
that was just great.
Yeah.
But it was because we were outside, like, at a
And it's a
beautiful
festival,
festival, had nowhere to go, nowhere to be, like, do anything. Like, that was just perfect.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I hope we can, like, recreate that exact moment. I hope Shaggy's there. It's just like, hey, guys.
Shaggy.
We're already in. You
I
already
didn't know that was
they're
his
down,
name.
so
Makes it
Yeah,
better.
I'll,
So
I'll
good.
chat with them.
that's easy. We can.
Yeah.
We ironed that out a week before.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely a
forgot
call
about
to all of
that.
this. Yeah. Like the pairing music with meditation and yoga, the pairing psychedelic with all the above, you
Yes.
know, like there's a call for it. There's definitely like
All
not a
of
huge like capitalistic demand, but
No.
like definitely like a spirit
Dude,
call.
on
No, it's
Spotify,
spirit.
I
Yeah.
spend so much time on Spotify trying to find people who, like, have made good music that can flow with yoga.
Yeah.
Because, you know, just like, it's like songs that are patient, songs that are like really
Yes.
like slow or dynamic in a way that's not like too overwhelming. Because I need to be able to talk over it.
Right.
But I also need it to fill space and get them in a trance. So I've started using like some trance music. Like he's helping me find like the best trance tracks that like
Cool.
get you into that rhythm, but aren't like
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you could also, if someone was live, right?
yeah.
be even more
They-
dynamic.
Or like
could-
record
Yeah,
your live
Exactly.
shit.
They would just feel that out and be like, volume down. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you could, and then it could just be tailored. That's where it's like that idea comes about. I just had this thought in my mind of like, you're like, all right, you know, there could be yoga, there could be music, there could be like psychedelics, and there could be, you know, let's think of different places, you know, indoor, outdoor, nighttime, daytime, right? And I'm just like, at this point, we're in this day and age where we're just lottery wheeling it. And it's just like, they all just comes with different combinations. It's like outdoor, psychedelics, yoga, and music. You know, it's like indoor, long form meditation, you know, ambient music and snacks, you know, whatever you want.
And snacks.
You know, like those, we're doing that now. And I maybe to bring it way back, that's what made me have that original conversation of like, what did that event look like?
Yeah.
Because I loved seeing how it's now these different flavors of that. And then you just see that event. Hey, you know, it's like an email nowadays. It's like, hey, you need some music with this?
Right, true, I know, yeah.
You know, and now mind you, we're just brainstorming, but it's like those are the kind of seeds that are, you know, throw it at the wall, see if it sticks.
Right, yeah.
I love imagining too, like what his path has been like to get to a place where he like has. I mean, I'm sure he's like hosted so many events, and he's landed like 2 hours, 25-minute meditations, 4 of them.
Yeah,
and wait,
That's what
so
he's
like
landed on, right?
the first one, the second one, the third one, fourth one. How were they different? Like, how were they different focuses
Good
or different
question.
like methodology? Like,
What did you get out of them? Maybe
The first one felt more like a grounding meditation, get in your body. The second one, I felt the most focused in the first one, and I felt the least focused in the second one.
I felt the least focused in the second one as well.
It seemed like the general
It could have just been
consensus seemed to be that.
the visualization exercise wasn't hitting, or wasn't something that I could fully like get into. It's kind of how from the beginning I was like trying to get there, and then I was just like, what's that noise, or my neck kind of hurts. Like it was hard for me to stay in it, for sure.
so the first one was more body, and the second one was more in your mind.
Perhaps,
It's
yeah.
probably
perhaps.
that maybe the structure there is like the first chunk is easiest because
Maybe.
you know the 20-minute meditation, and then they're like, all right, back into it, and your brain bowl is like, no.
That's interesting.
Listen to everything, and then you like calm it down, and then you can do the next hour.
That's
So-
interesting.
Could be, yeah. I think for me, I at the end of the first one, like when he was drawing us back into this space, into alertness, like I did not want to get back up. I was really profoundly relaxed. So I think the second one I like very much flirted with falling asleep. I was very in the subconscious hypnagogic state.
Oh, cool.
And it did get to a point where he was talking about like permanence and impermanence and like the permanent aspect of you, and that like woke me up. I was like, okay, even though I'm drifting, there is like a, you know, the moment, whatever, God, the witness, whatever words used for these things, like that's always like been present, even though my conscious awareness has been wavering, my subconscious presence has been wavering, but like the unconscious presence has been still,
Yes.
and always will be, you know. And that was like a really cool reminder that sort of brought me back into focus.
That seemed to be a common theme in the room, because I think somebody else also mentioned the impermanence, permanence
Yeah.
part of that. And that is, when she said that, I was also like, oh, that's kind of, that was the moment that I sort of tuned back into it. He caught my attention with that.
It was very much the bass drop. Like that was the peak of the set for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So that was 2, where he like kind of closed off 2 with that.
Yeah,
The
more or
third
less, yeah.
one.
And then there was a break, like you could get up and actually like go to the bathroom or whatever, and then got
do a
back
little
into
dance,
it. And it's
whatever
like,
you
okay,
wanna
it's
do.
almost, and I was like, wow, it's already 10 o'clock, and it's like, or 9 o'clock, it's like, okay, it's almost 8. It's like, oh, we're at the halfway point. All right, buckle in. Come on,
I
brain.
was actually
we're focusing
surprised
here.
we were already at the halfway point.
Okay, I was about like,
part.
dang, that was a good session. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we got twice as much.
Yeah.
But
The third one
I'm
I
glad
was
that we did.
probably the most present for, I think.
Okay.
But
What was-
the third and the
I
fourth.
don't remember the third one as well.
The
do you?
third one, he was talking about like a tree a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
for the most part. Yeah, and I was really like grounding myself back into it by, at the beginning he mentioned like, feel the tree, like it feels like, you know, describing
Imagining
that.
the
And so
sensation.
I was kind of frustrated that I was having trouble like staying, I was struggling with it prior to that. So I was like, I feel like I was like not getting better, but I don't know, staying more
you
focused.
do reps. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So by that one, when he said that about feeling the tree, that resonated with me. And so kind of the whole time I was picturing myself touching the tree as he was talking and like what that felt like. And so it allowed me to stay on what he was saying as well. Because I was like, okay, the tree.
In
I'm
that
with the tree.
visualization,
Like, I'm present with that. And
your brain
I don't
can
know.
like, when you imagine that, like, cool thing about visualization, your brain's unsure what's real, right? So when you really think about it, your brain's firing up all that stuff, and it's like, I'm really touching this tree.
Yeah.
You know, and then
Totally.
you're just fully in it.
Yeah. There were certain moments like that one that I think was very much intentionally touching on these like almost universal experiences of like there's one that was like, remember when you were a child and you like picked up a rock or a leaf or whatever and you were just like amazed by it or whatever, like who hasn't had that experience, you know?
Yeah.
Or touching a tree, and that very much reminded me of Nelson's, like
So
Claudia's little like tree touch point. I like to call them little save points for us.
Yeah. Or checkpoint.
Yeah, checkpoints. Yeah. And like, but like, yeah, like you can feel the energy of a live tree. Like you can feel its aliveness versus just touching dead wood or whatever, you know? And so that like, I feel is a pretty, maybe less universal, but definitely an experience that I've had that kind of kept me focused and emotionally engaged, I suppose, in that way. Yeah, and then the fourth one was essentially like going through your body, doing a body scan and like turning your body, your starting with your toes and your ankles, your legs, whatever, turn it into water and just like feeling the flow.
That one
was
I really
good.
liked, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, highly recommend. Good times.
Yeah.
What can I say? So it was
People
great.
need
It was a
to,
good
like,
reminder.
I love that you guys went and did this on a Friday night,
Saturday night.
Saturday night. You
We
went
were planning
Sat-
on going to Papadosio, actually.
Yeah, and instead you guys like had a great time together. Like you were able to bond and just like have this like social night out. You had like a nice dinner before, and like that was like the main activity. Like I feel like
That was something that we were kind of talking about after, I think. Or I don't really remember exactly what we were saying. But yeah, I think that's cool. And he mentioned that too. He was like, or no, maybe you're...
He did mention that. He was like, it's not an accident that they do Friday, Saturday night. Like, it's almost to be an alternative to like... Because one of the ladies in there was like, yeah, I'm going clubbing tonight. Like, this is like...
Yeah, she's going to Tequila Cowboy.
I love that.
Yeah.
But...
So I was like, that's a perfect way to
Yeah,
pregame.
I think he said like that multiple times. People have said like, yeah, I was gonna go out with my friends tonight and decided like I'm just gonna come here and do some meditating, which I'm like plenty of times I've been, you know, had plans to go out and I'm like, I don't really want to do that. And so to have an alternative of something like kind of social to do, like an event,
But
that's
it's quiet.
Yeah, that's probably like more of what you're looking where
That's a tough cross to bear too. It's like I want to go out and be in the world, and whenever I thought about this thing before it was the actual day of, it sounded so fun. But like, you know, I still want to like go out and engage. So I like to find things like that. Or you find a great group of people, and they're like, no, that's perfectly fine. None of us wanted to do that, and we're gonna turn this into something that's more preferable for everyone.
Yeah.
And as we get older, more of that, please.
Please, yes.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? More of that.
Yeah.
I imagine how much fun it would be to have like, because this isn't really a thing. It's a thing in like New York. Like there are a few in New York that are like a thing, and they're
Meditation centers?
like a meditation studio that's
Okay.
like, honestly, like if you had a yoga studio, you should just be like meditation and yoga studio. You've
100%.
got the space.
Yeah.
Do a
It's the
little
yin yang,
yoga.
you know? I mean, they are each other, literally.
Dude,
One's embodied,
honestly.
one's...
Yeah.
Does
whatever
yoga
that
feel
is.
too much work?
No, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait, I need to text Dom and be like,
Yeah.
you should have just a meditation
Does-
class. What?
Does Dom do a like meditation? Was that a thing that every once in a while she does like a meditation class?
She does a spiritual awakening yin class.
Okay.
Which is like gongs. So it's very much like what we did at the retreat.
Okay.
Like it's like gongs and like deep yin poses. And she'll do.
I would
she'll
like
go,
to go
she'll go by
that
the.
sometimes.
This is like a great thing to come into town for, Shanti.
Yeah.
Is this like it's like a 90-minute like yoga experience, or maybe 2 hours. It might be 2 hours, honestly. Billy, who like has all the gongs, brings all these gongs in, and she goes through like each chakra, and she'll like talk about the chakra and like do like put you in like a pose that associates with it. So you're like stretching into like your root chakra, and then you're like able to focus on each energy point. And that is a great moment to like grab some mushrooms or like a little microdose of something, a little helper along the experience. And that is like a very special type of event. So like kind of similar.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah,
I'd love to. Yeah, keep me posted for sure. Yeah, it was just, I mean, I think that it's been a little bit of a theme for this weekend too for me, and I don't know if this is interesting to anyone else besides myself, but just learning about myself a bit this weekend. Like, yeah, you know, like we were, I'd say like 75, 80, 90% like kind of planning on going to Papadosio, and I just saw them last weekend, you know. I saw them on Friday, so I thought going on Saturday would be like the better move, like at the encore.
Yeah.
You know, of course they're gonna save like Finding Cloud or whatever else for the encore. That would matter.
Dude,
what'd you guys see?
I was waiting for them to play that and like some other
Better
tracks,
come back
and they
Saturday.
did, and I was like, guys, you totally left us hanging.
When you got that weekend
And
residency,
there's no
they're
encore,
playing
and
to
he
it.
was there, and I'm like, anywhere he is, there's an encore, because he will scream until they come back.
No,
But they were like lights
Saturday's
on.
the
And
encore.
No, I saw what they were doing.
Yeah.
They played till midnight, dude.
Yeah.
Fire it away.
Right.
I know what the deal is. And
I bet
then
it
they're
was
gonna
good
play till
Saturday
8:40.
night.
Oh, I'm sorry, 11:45 the next night, and then we're gonna encore until midnight.
No
You're
doubt.
so funny you
No
just
doubt.
called that. Did they play it whenever you saw them in?
No, because that was the Friday show. I saw the same show you guys did. Yeah, so to speak, energetically.
That's so-
yeah.
The Ram Dass. I wanted that.
Was there a
and
bunch of
got
that?
Got me some Ram Dass, so I was happy about that.
Oh, okay.
I had some
cool.
moments, eye closed, swaying with my friends, feeling good,
Yeah.
listening to some Ram Dass.
Nice.
It was great.
Check my box.
Good.
We've heard them do the encore of what we wanted to hear. I was very.
What'd you want to
happy.
hear?
Of in years past, that's our third year seeing them.
There are like a few tracks that I feel like
Yeah.
are like favorites, but
Yeah.
this is our third time seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, where I wanted to be disappointed a little bit because I didn't hear that like zinger. I was like, no, they created the same container that they have the last 3 years of just like, I'm having a great time with my friends, and the vibe is really groovy. And we'll go to bass shows sometimes, and that's a different vibe. But like, I really appreciate like the little niche where like Papadosio is, where it's like jam band that I used to listen to when I was like a kid. So there's like that like everyone comes together and like everyone's like been listening to Papadosio probably for a long time.
Yeah.
And they like look young. I'm like, I was like talking to my friends. I'm like, they were in a famous band when they were like 20, because they're like young 40s probably.
Yeah.
Or like old 30s, and they like just jamming, just having a good time.
Yeah.
Been around for like 20 years.
Yeah, sure have.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's really wild.
It is wild. I know. And they're like the first jam band that I really saw and had experiences with and things like that. So yeah, definitely a good place in my heart. I'm not a huge fan. You know, if I was, I might have felt more inclined to make that happen yesterday. But anyway, so like, yeah, I woke up and I was just like, you know, that was on the docket, but like, I just kind of felt like it wasn't going to happen. You know?
It didn't need to.
It didn't need to, and it was very synchronistic that we found the meditation event, because I just like, you know, we were talking about it, whatever, just like, you feeling it, whatever, should we see other options, and just like literally Google things to do in Pittsburgh
I think all day we were like, I'm not really feeling it right now, but maybe later we will be. And then it hit like 6 o'clock, and I was like,
Well, that's always a great way to approach anything, is to be like, you know what?
feel it out.
Maybe.
Feel it out.
That's the recurring thing that I was gonna get to for sure.
Yes, and be okay with that.
Yeah.
You don't have. I have done. I did the thing with my friend the other day where I accidentally had cross booked, and had the thing where.
Wait, double booked?
You would like double book, and you're like, I'm gonna do a thing, and then you also have another thing, and you're like, you feel the emotion, and then you just express it, that you're like, but I don't know. We had talked about this, thing here and then now even the day of, they're like, I feel the exact same way, and that is totally okay. That's a fine way to go about
100%.
Whatever it is. I used to anxiety stress myself to be like, I have to be there.
Again, coming back to the obligation type
So
thing.
Obligation.
Yeah. And that's like, I feel like old world virtues of like, you said you're so loyal, like loyalty, like this, like as Jessa Reed says, like worker bee
honor.
virtues, like just like how our worth is so tied up into these like capitalistic qualities of like never leaving your job, loyalty, you know, whatever, like being punctual to your job, you know, all
Why'd
these
you look
things.
at me, Shanti?
I don't know. It's just I was looking this way and it was a shift.
Whereas
Why are you never on time or what? Are you that guy?
It's between me and God.
Okay, well I know you're Virgo,
And
so I
everyone
figure you're
else.
probably on the side of wanting punctuality. Speak to me. I don't know. I'm guessing. No. Okay. Well, we can get into your chart later. Anyway.
Wait, so how has your like kind of overall trip in Pittsburgh been? Like you asked, what's your like rose and thorn, like a favorite moment, maybe a tough.
I'm gonna bookmark that to check in to see if I landed the last plane I was trying to land.
Yeah, I'm on that plane with you. And I just
remind me where I was
Wait,
about
what plane is
punctuality,
that?
work being virtues, and stuff like that.
Go with the flow.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that like I feel like in the prime timeline, like you know, New World stuff, that it's just a part of like self authenticity, like self love type stuff to just be real with people. Like I don't feel like doing the thing that I said I was gonna do 5 minutes ago. Things changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like whatever.
Yeah.
So and like surrounding ourselves with people that can understand, respect, and honor
and
that.
work,
You know,
give you some grace.
Give you
And
some
I think
grace with that.
sometimes challenge that as well, because I think yesterday,
Sure.
prior
That's
to the meditation event we went to, I was definitely feeling like just coming back home and going to the sauna and maybe doing our own meditation, which we talked about. But I'm glad that I didn't say that, because I was like, this is probably a good thing to do.
You said
However,
it-
if I had voiced that, I guess I kind of thought that you would have been like, okay, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. But I think the ability to like challenge that too and being like, well, maybe, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, and I felt similar. Yeah, and that was my prior point, was that it felt very synchronistic finding that, because I literally Googled things to do, got on Eventbrite. It was like the first scroll. I was like, whoa, this seems like a calling. So I did feel called to that, even though then my ego started getting a little restless when we were at dinner, like, are you sure you want to do something that's going to help you? Because I usually don't like doing stuff like that. Like, am I going to die in this experience? You know, the little ego that's like the little ego gremlin that wants to
I was
hold the
feeling
wheel.
that as well, yeah.
Yeah, so I felt like you said it best after the thing, that you felt that in me. So even though we both were having hesitations, you also could tell that I felt called, and I was sort of trying to like have an out a bit,
Yes. And I feel
but
like
I
I
didn't
can
really want it
But
yeah.
spiritually.
that still categorizing things with like outs and like whatnot. I think that the perspective of that is so more maybe modern day, where like we have everything's calendared, everything is kind of like structured in such a way. Whereas before, I would imagine, you know, ancestrally, thousands of years ago, there is more like, yeah, we just have to go with the flow of, you know, what that thing is.
Yeah.
And we're finding it difficult maybe to adjust, you know, every generation still. This is like, okay, yeah, like we say we're going to do this stuff, and then we like stick to it, and we're like, oh, what a drag, you know what I mean? I'm coming into work, or I got to do this thing, and I'm doing this project, and it's like, I don't want to. What I want to do is like just chill for a sec. Well, if you give yourself that 2-second chill, maybe it would help you with that as well.
True.
So, you know, we have AI bots maybe thinking these things and building our calendars around, you know, what sounds like a monumental idea, but it's really not.
Yeah.
You know, it's, but I do think that there's a lot of in us it's got to be natural, where we're like, hey, no, and that's okay. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I think it is hard to sort of gauge when is, because I often have the feeling of like, I just want to like lay at home and hang out with my little cat and not do anything, but like that's not the move either, you know. So it's like, when is the time to push yourself and do the thing, which like yesterday I'm glad that we did do that thing.
And that's the work, I feel, is like, that's the feeling it out. It's not so much like, do I feel like doing this, but like checking in with the different aspects of yourself. Like I was saying the other night, that I feel like competing drives in my Sagittarian wanting to explore the world and my Virgo wanting to never leave bed. You know what I mean? So which part of me is speaking right now? And like, and for me, I'm such a mental case that I'm thinking about orienting myself to reality rather than like descending into the body and feeling what do I really like, what's an authentic need, and what's just like a frivolous desire or something, you know? Like, so being skillful in that way of like knowing who's doing the thinking or the feeling too. There's so many layers to these things.
I have got a
That's
recent
interesting.
categorization, I put it that way, of thinking from, once again, referencing Dune. Anyway, it
All right, I'll check it out.
It just talks about a certain style of thinking. Anyway, it's long and short. It's like, supposedly like humans and that are better, but there is a type of person that thinks computationally, and reading that was like, I do that sometimes. I'll be in this moment thinking computationally about it. Well, I'm just like processing it as logic. You know what I mean? Whereas that doesn't always favor us, and actually can be the thing that you need to like put the like program in, out of you the that structured way of thought, and just be like, what is the okay, like yeah, those are very valid. And I have maybe once again obligation. Do I have a real obligation that it's like a negative repercussion if I don't know? And so no, and now that I'm in it, I'm assessing these things and I get to do that, like living in that space, it feels a lot easier.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're a master of either and not the other, it can be like totally suffering, right? Like if you're like all pragmatic, like computational, you're probably going to suffer because you're not going to feel or intuit why or how you're doing things.
Yeah.
And then if you're all intuition and all feeling, you're not going to have the wherewithal or the like ability to take yourself from one state to the next. Like you acknowledge a feeling in a moment and then you're like, okay, this action or this like process needs to occur.
Yeah.
So it's like really like a collaboration between both of those things.
That's such a great point.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Is that like type A and type B?
No,
I don't relate to that as well. I don't know.
I
don't speak that language.
That concept.
Yeah.
Actually,
I see that connection though.
I think it originated because people were talking about like blood types.
Huh.
Because I think
Really?
yes, like actually, we were talking to Mimi about this, and it was like if you have type A blood, like they tend to have characteristics that are like more like what you would refer to as type A.
That's interesting.
And then some would be more type B.
I never correlated.
It's so nuanced, but like question mark is there?
Yeah. Interesting.
That's a crazy tangent. I would love to.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just.
That's all. No,
That's a really good
never
point.
connected those dots. In my mind. I was thinking more in terms of like Enneagram stuff. Do you guys?
Yeah.
What was that? Oh,
Nothing. That's nothing. It's nothing.
My brain's just glitching.
Enneagram. I don't know if I believe in the Enneagram.
Really?
you didn't take it?
That's crazy to me. Let's say more. I just think it's funny because that's like the one that
have
feels
you taken
psychological. Like it's not.
But it's just a bunch of random
based on.
questions.
Well, to figure out your type, but
But you can
it's
answer,
based on
you can
your.
answer the questions differently on
I
one day
will
versus the
say-
next.
It's more dynamic in that way. Yeah.
So like if I'm one thing one day and then another thing the next day or a year from now, like
I mean, there's lots of tests to find out lots of
But you were
things. You know
just
what I mean? Well, here's my
I wanna
here's
hear
my
what
sell
you
on
think,
it. That like when I first heard about the Enneagram, it made a lot of sense to me because it's not based on like numerology, which seems to me like a sort of arbitrary. This is an example like numerology, where it's like your name or your birthday is telling you something about yourself. Like that feels arbitrary. Astrology, where you're born, at what time, is trying to map the gravity. Like I realize that that's a system and a language that I'm starting to speak. But at the time, I was just like, why? But this is like your early childhood experiences. So it feels very psychological and like scientific in that way. So
Okay.
that's kind of what resonates about it with me. And like, yeah, the test, like I'm sure there's
this is like the ENFP
No.
thing.
No,
that's the
Enneagram.
Myers-Briggs, which I don't know much about
Actually,
at all.
okay.
The Enneagram to
The Enneagram-
me
What's an example?
feels more. Reading it resonated with me more than the Myers-Briggs tested.
What did you get? What's your Enneagram?
What am
You're
I?
the
4.
Oh, it's a number thing.
Yes.
Yeah, there's 9 types, and you have like wings. So to your point of like feeling different on a different day, like it accounts for that. Like there's when you're in a healthy state, you go to one wing or the other. I'm not an expert on it.
Is it like
But-
numbers and like titles, like terms, right?
Yeah, the numbers signify the titles. So there's 9 types.
Okay, I think I
Yeah.
took this recently.
So it also, I sent it to you at some point.
I think I took it,
recently. It also tells you. I don't know if I paid for like the more in-depth version
You
recently, but it does tell you like each of the types and like however like you can have varying
degrees of each type.
Degrees of each type, yes. So like my type was 4, but like that was only 2 points higher than 2 others.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting to me.
wings.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like there is room for like mixing it up, but yeah, I mean I'm okay with that.
But
we show up as different versions of ourselves in different moments. So like, I don't know. Anyway, the reason why I even brought it up is because they categorize in 3 triads of like the thinker types, the feeler types, and the instinctual types, like gut, heart, mind.
What's yours?
What would you guess?
I don't know this test. Well, you're thinking type. Okay.
Yeah.
What's like the name of yours?
That's it's the 5, and different books and different schools have different names for them. When I was learning it, it was the observer.
The observer. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyway, not to get too deep into a rabbit hole on that, but like, yeah.
You just lit up, man. You were like, oh, really?
I don't know about it, but just what I said. Like, it just feels like more psychological, which makes sense to me. Like, I think we show up as more or less like empty slates, and our experiences are immediately conditioning us and shaping us. So like, to me, that has so much more impact on my personality than like Sagittarius being in the sky. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's almost like,
and it's all the above. I'm not saying that astrology. Obviously, I do vibe with astrology.
My thing that I vibe with when it comes to astrology, you actually have to consider is, because I love astronomy, is that we are receiving refractions and reflections of electromagnetic energy from planets.
Yeah, no doubt.
It is, we are actually passing through the ways in which they have manipulated electromagnetism or electromagnetic energy that we are interacting with, or light that's bounced off of them that we're seeing, and how all that interacts.
Yeah.
Once again, we're Graham Hancock, we're a race with amnesia. Mm-hmm. And we don't really have enough ancestral knowledge to say, okay, over 20,000 years, these energies regarding these planets, are they actually really, pulling at something? It's like,
maybe.
Yeah.
So many things. You know what I mean?
I was more skeptical on astrology when I was more in a materialist paradigm myself. Like, now I do see everything as a sacred mirror. I do realize that like the universe is just whatever. The moment is the universe. Like, we're all one.
Yes.
Whereas at the time I was like, oh, are the planets affecting me? And now I recognize I am the planet. So it's not so much like, I don't even see it as them affecting us, but just like mirrors of us.
Yes.
So it's an expression.
And where are they?
And then
we are
out,
now
up,
reflecting
down.
them.
Yeah.
And we are
exactly.
being this
back and forth
prism.
Yeah.
Reflection now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it definitely resonates more now. But
Feels like it adds color to like my internal world. Because like I have like whatever is in my chart, but then like I also get to like receive from other people. Like I get to like receive Leo energy from them and like take that in and digest it, and, like feel it elementally, and like notice how I have the same things,
Interesting. Yeah.
And then there's also like, you can't even be sure about astrology because there's like fucking Eastern astrology.
That's another thing I was gonna
Like,
bring up.
yeah.
I actually wasn't gonna bring it up, but that's
Like,
one of the things that makes me skep.
But it's all language and it's all fun. It's just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
We're all in drag. Like, we're all like playing a character. So like, if you're gonna be, I was like a kid who was like not Virgo at all. Like, I was very unorganized and like not on my shit. And so as I've gotten older and I like learn more about astrology and I see like the whole chart, which is like, I'm way more my like Libra moon and my Sag rising. And they like play that dance with the Virgo.
Yeah.
But like, I can tune into Virgo energy more because I have so much more language, and like I see memes online, and like my language and the colors around like what that character would look like, that essence, that like core essence or that constitution, I can like embody that almost like in like a like guided meditation type way. You can like take on and feel what something would be like, and then I think that's helpful. Even if something's not in your chart, even if something isn't like your core sign, it can help empathize with people, right? Like, I can look at Paige and be like, oh my god, you totally are Libra and you love pretty things, but you're also like really emotional and deeply like in tune with your feelings, and so it's like I can then anticipate and understand her more because I can see the colors and the language happening within her, which like we don't as a society really have very complex language like that. Like like my dad and my mom, they couldn't see each other like that. they had like a really basic, like almost like black and white way of like perceiving
binary.
each other. That like now we get like this like rainbow spectrum, and it's like pretty cool that we get to like just play.
I love that, and I feel that you have a healthy relationship to that. It's funny too because the way you're describing it also like gives me more like evidence for the idea on the flip side that it's all BS. Which is to say belief system, you know what I mean? That like we're using this to program ourselves. Like for instance, you thought your rising
I was thinking that the whole time, and I was kind of having a similar thought, but I think there is some beauty. There's beauty in what you're saying too, because it's like you can read about the Virgo side of things and what resonates with you. What do you want? Like, you know. Yeah, but I thought I was a Pisces rising, and I'm not. And that affected the way that you showed up in yourself and the way that you, right? Yeah? I don't know. You said that you and your friend, like, had each other's rising, and, like, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to speak for you, but, like, it just kind of brings up that idea that if I was told, if my, maybe I didn't have a birth certificate, you know what I mean? And someone fucked up my birth date, or whatever. Maybe I had the location wrong or something. That's going to completely shift my rising and everything else. Like, and if I have an idea, because like I said, I really feel like we're just open minds and we're immediately like programmed and conditioned with identity. So if I learn to identify with a certain sign or political party or religion or any of these things, like it's like, I call it programming. Some people call it brainwashing. You know what I mean? Some call it conditioning. Like, anyway, so none of it's like, I'm not saying any of this is negative necessarily. And it sounds like you have a healthy relationship. I could see other people having an unhealthy relationship where they like fuel their limitations through being like...
Sorry. The queen entered the chat.
So the jester shuts down.
No, proceed.
I'm chilling.
I will. I watched this documentary about specifically personality tests, so I understand what you're saying about kind of the accuracy, like not fully trusting that, because it is based on what you're saying. On a different day, you might feel something different, but. One of the major points that stuck with me from that was about like how personality tests and astrology and how like in today's time we're all just trying to have someone else define us for us rather than figuring it out ourselves.
Can I have a reading?
And that to me was really was super interesting because I'm like, I like love personality tests and astrology. Like tell me who I am so I don't have to, and I think we have more. Or I can speak for myself, like I have more trust in somebody else telling me that and like sort of taking from it rather than like, in some sense, I would say like not wholly, but like going on that journey and, defining that for myself. But I think having that language there is also cool, and you can take from it and be like, that one, I don't really, that piece doesn't fully feel like me, but that piece does, or
the idea of language, like I think that I want to highlight that because that feels so important. That like I do feel like language is a programming medium, whether it's like code is a language, right? English is a spoken language. And think about how much like, I don't know if you guys are bilingual at all. I'm not. Barely speak English, but it's like it shapes the way I show up in the world because I have a certain set of symbols to relate with the world. And I feel like English is a very binary language. It's a pretty like spiritually stupid language, type of thing.
I speak Spanish pretty well.
Yeah.
And always really appreciated how in a language with roots in Latin, right, how old it is, or really, I'm sorry, with roots in roots of Romance language, Romanian, expresses in a deeper way. You can say one thing multiple ways. You can say "I love you" 3 different ways.
Yeah,
right? You know what I mean. In English, we do have one way. Now, mind you, we're kind of an amalgamation of multiple language.
True.
With a German root in German.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
German itself English is Germanic. It's kind of,
in the way that it's sprouting and blooming. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still, it's a certain filter.
But my favorite thing is that this isn't the plane we communicate on. It's a muddled plane. We use words here and we have raised eyebrows and body language, but really there's like another plane that is where we're actually doing the communication. And you can speak with little animals on that plane. You can speak with each other across the room. You really are. Yeah, a tree, you know, or you're the world around you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like another thing. You guys being in that room too, to go back to that event. Love that, because when you're having shared emotions, it's the energy bouncing off of when you're meditating for that long and you're really tuning this world to as low as the volume can be, right? You can hear how we're all having kind of a shared experience, like if that really hit for someone around you, or like that word really felt like the bass drop that was like, we all shared that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I guess it makes me feel a little like, I don't know, in some part of the sad spectrum about it, because like I feel like most people are taught or programmed to not be aware and tuned in to the other fields of communication. Like body language is becoming more, people are getting more skilled in that, you know, but I feel like you're speaking of something even deeper than body language. Like,
and I think language can inform our experience with what you're talking about as well.
Yeah.
Which I remember learning about, and I forget what what exactly the study was about, but the main thing was just like, it was studying some tribe that didn't have language around, I want to say like numbers or something like that, and they I don't know, I guess my thought there is not fully realized, but the people in that tribe, like their conceptualization of that topic was very different because they didn't have language around it.
Oh, wow.
And there are a lot of studies about like language and just like the human experience
And
around
communicating it.
that, and like how, I don't know.
How to get it across to somebody else.
Right.
But meanwhile, you can be in a room or at a show and or anywhere, and there's something that really hits for you, and you see someone over there you didn't say a word to the whole time, and you're just like, man, was that like that for you? And they're like dead on. Yeah. Yes, that really I transcended, or like that word really, and we had a shared, and mind you, we all, and then me too, you come together and you're like, wow, like what a thing. And it's like, yeah, well, we're all talking about that. Yeah. As is you know, we're chatting on that plane, and all of our energies and our you know, our spirits are like, this is really hitting, and then we get, you really monkey. Yeah, I like that.
And then we throw you know, feces at the wall, like,
yes, great. You like
same one.
You know what I mean? You know? Okay, and you get on your phone and we pull, and then it like delves into the world. But like, mind you, the events, everything that we talk about regarding it, whether, you know, the endless amounts of podcasts and movies that are regarding whatever the thing is, right? Yeah. You know, those all stem from the need to put into words or describe the feeling that we got, you know, and we're chasing it. Yeah. It's an endless pursuit. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No spoilers, but there's have you seen Waking Life?
No.
Okay, well, there's a scene, and this literally is not a spoiler at all, but it brings up this idea of this very conversation of like how we have these innate experiences, and we're trying to use this like innately kind of dumb, I don't know what else to say, like just a very like you said, just monkey attempts of communicating about like, what is love? You know, what are these things we have these little symbols and spellings for, and we're pointing towards similar things, but. Yeah, I mean, I try to be really mindful about the words that I use with people, especially when we get into like more metaphysical discussions, because like even on regular terms, we all have different associations with with the same words.
Yeah, our sounds are different.
The way we say things,
the way we say things and the way we understand them, you know, like.
But we're still felt. You know, the isness is the thing that we're like trying to describe. Yeah. You know, and like, and what is the feeling, and then the doing is us like, oh, let me. I gotta convey this to you. You have to know what this was for me. Well, it's not that I have to know. It's that you want to tell me because it was so meaningful to you.
Right.
I also found meaning from it and want to know what that was like for you, because we all want to know, are you having the same thing happen? And the most beautiful part about it, and when we're all one, is we're finding that, yeah, we're all one sliver of like this shattered mirror, and it's all reflecting back the same. You look in the mirror and there's like, oh, it's God. You know, it's oneness. It's the thing. You know, it's the watcher. It's you. It's a rider, right? And you're like, oh, but I'm a unique part of it. And they're like, no, it was like this for me. But what we felt that inspired it, you know, led us. It's like, okay, well, I really felt like, you know, that moment, you know, had this meaning for me, and now it inspires me to go be this way. And someone's like, yeah, I just felt I was given the same thing, and now I'm inspired to go and be this way. And we both look at each other and we're like, wow, that was really great for both of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you can have these experiences done from all kinds of stuff, and we're trying to, you know, create them as often as we can, more and more.
Right. And that's, you know, the value in facilitating group activities in the masculine, in the sense of divine masculine, not a gender thing, and the masculine way of structure.
Yeah.
You know, through like leading a yoga class or like guiding a meditation or whatever else, you know, deciding to have a share circle, like sharing tea amongst, you know, passing a pipe or something, like something that we all experience the same thing. So even though we will I'll never totally know what your experience is, even as deeply as we learn to communicate verbally and non-verbally. You know what I mean? Yeah. And to your point, like I feel like we're all trying to be known in a way that will never lead to that, because it's almost impossible. We can't know. One ego can't know what another ego is like, other than the shared experience of it being ego. Yeah. You know? Yeah,
that's when I was talking earlier at the beginning of this about that journal entry I had after that meditation on the yoga retreat was very much that. And I think that I found a lot of isolation and like loneliness in that like inability to really convey the way that I feel to somebody. Like I've spent a lot of time like, you know, trying to talk to a friend about how I'm feeling, and I'm like, you can't experience that, and like I can't experience if you're telling me the way that like you're feeling. Like there's no way for me to like fully feel that. And so I think like the point that I came to after that meditation was sort of like, that's okay. And finding like at the end of the day, when I die, like no one will ever know me the way that I know myself. And I, you know, even the person closest to me is not going to understand me the way that I understand myself. They'll know a different version of me, which is beautiful in itself. Yeah,
absolutely.
But I think that's interesting.
And it's a big reframe, because I feel like, again, part of the old world is like so egocentric, where, you know, the world should know what it's like to understand me. Like, why? You know, like, yeah. And I feel like the reframe is like to instead of going into the outer world and trying to find the one person that's going to understand me, love me in the way that no one else has been able to, it's like to be that for yourself, which like feels and sounds cringe and corny and shit, but it's like that is the path of like spirituality and like self-discovery and actualization and all those things. Yeah. You know.
And so, I think the more you do that, the more you can like hold that for other people. Or bring that out, you know? Because it is kind of all the same thing at the end of the day. Like once you like see yourself and you acknowledge the ego of it all, and like you find healthy space from that, from the God perspective, and you can love up on all the little like weird dark little crevices of like your being, and that's really like your responsibility and like your healing journey or whatever is to like as an ego reframe and like really understand your like intricate mandala that you're set up with. And I think like a really basic approach to the ego is like very like negative and positive, like it's like imposed, and like certain things seem positive, certain things seem negative. Like if you had a mandala and you were to switch around the colors, like it's all still balanced perfectly, but like you are just like the contrast of one thing to another.
And to like frame that with the gratitude of it being a gift, be able to be the one that witnesses like your life, you know, you could be looking through any set of eyes and through any set of experience, you know, filtering the experience of being a temporary human, you know, and like, I don't know, I feel like the predominant programming is like victim mentality, you know, where it's like, woe is me, like, whatever, y'all know the stories.
But I mean, the majority of the people that have unfortunately existed have had to be victims.
I mean, same, definitely been there, yeah. That's why I'm speaking.
But that's not like a unique, you know, where
out.
everyone's a victim in a sense, so it's not that unique or special of an experience to be in that space. But yeah.
All eventual victims of death, you know.
The liberator, you know, at the same time. Because that's the other thing is like our relationship to death is so fucked as well, but that's an entirely different discussion. I
feel very fortunate to be able to, like, I feel privileged almost to be able to have a conversation like this, where like I can like laugh about death, where I can like know the difference between my ego and like something higher, and like I think people might understand that more than they think, but they just don't have the same language. Like, I think, again, language trips us up because we're programmed that, like, some of those, like, new agey or, like, hippie terms, people hear that and they're like, you know, is there a different way we can say this or explain this? And,
without losing.
Yeah. So I'd be curious to see, like, in the future, like, how language evolves with it. But then there's also, like, okay, we'll probably all be telepathic.
Yeah, then we can just then we're gonna find out how to actually communicate on that plane.
For example, do you guys ever like have a thought? And I don't know if this is 5G or what, but like you have a thought about
5G or 5D?
5G, but
5G.
maybe 5D.
Okay, go on.
5G, like phone 5G,
like
the fucking shit that's like we're in an
Our
ocean.
New fishbowl.
We're in an ocean right now.
We're swimming deeper here.
But anyway, so like you have a moment where you're like, okay, and you're thinking about a mug you want to buy or a person you went to high school with 20 years ago, and then their post comes right up on your feed. You forgot you even followed them, or like something comes up and you're just like, this doesn't make sense with like the algorithm of life, but it was delivered to me because almost something anticipated it. And it's like, this is simulating what happens, I think, naturally pretty well. By the way,
when you picked that up.
What? Did I pick it up?
11/11, you did.
Oh shit. Whoa, that's actually really wild. It's beautiful. But yeah, that's just something I like flirt with in my head. I'm like, wait, technology is either mirroring that or mirroring it in an artificial, or like is being in collaboration with like synchronicities. Because right, like maybe I'm thinking about someone because they're thinking about me because they saw a photo somewhere, you know, like there's like, I don't know, it's like crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean the perfect synchronicity of it being 11/11 when you touched your phone there too, like that's such a ding ding ding
as you're talking
about that literal thing, you know. So yeah, I think it's all of the above. I mean, what do I know? But like I just think everything's a mirror. So yeah, I think it's reflecting.
I think that we are designing this to greater levels than we even really understand.
100%.
And then I mean, and we're driving this, but like it's not even so much the technology. Technology is just an avenue of expression.
Yeah.
And it's just like if I were powerful enough to do X, it would be weird. AKA, perfect. The universe is gonna be like, all right, we're doing X. You're doing X, right? It'd be really weird if like I'm talking about this thing and put my phone up, it's 11/11, right? It would be weird if I thought about this person and I'm like, oh, I didn't search them. You know what I mean? Like, why are they being suggested on Facebook? The truth is, you know, they are also had shared experiences with you.
The universe loves that.
You guys have that feeling. It communicates with them. They have that feeling together. Maybe they have the feeling because of you, right? And then they're thinking about you. We're all co-creating. They looked you up, right? And the algorithm is now going to show you someone that looked you up. So yes, now these things are getting, my point being, bound together. Someone gets that feeling and they're like, Madi, right? And it's just a feeling of like, I wonder how she's doing. And she looks it up. And then you like had thought about them. But meanwhile, the algorithm then puts it into your feed to then, all of that is this big co-creation thing of like, wouldn't it be weird if, you know what I mean?
Well, let me take it,
let me ask. The universe finding joy, I think.
Let me ask you a question. What if it's something like, I'm thinking of a red sweater I'm thinking of red sweater, red hat, or something that I want to buy, like commodity wise.
Yeah.
So you're like, what if this could happen in the universe? It's like, I'm gonna make that happen. What if it's like 5G can like pick up on because this radio tuner of a brain that we all have is sending out like the same kind of like basic information as like your phone would to connect to a Wi-Fi tower.
And
I just think
light encoded with data is much different than our thoughts, unfortunately.
But like that's what I think. I'm like, okay, so if
know.
I'm thinking of a red sweater and Facebook wants me to buy shit off of Facebook and I get an ad for a red sweater, is that luck? Is that like the universe kind of doing that? Or is that like there's some technology we don't understand kind of floating around?
I
Or
also
is
think
it-
that like we see the thing and like yeah, but now we're seeing stuff and we're like, oh, I was just thinking about that, but meanwhile maybe we weren't. You know what I mean? And now things are being planted in front of us. That's just like, you want this, and it's like, I do want that.
That's a great
and we
take
just
as
like,
well.
and we just like apply a reasoning that our brain would have in order for it to be like that to be a thing.
If it was
Just
a
like a-
subliminal
just like a-
seed that you
Right.
didn't consciously register, and then consciously you register it so far after the algorithm connections had already been made. You know what I mean? The ad is already. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have any evidence for
Right.
that, but that
Yeah.
makes sense as well.
Once again,
Yeah.
here we are. It's still just parts of us. Finding
Exactly,
joy
yes,
and
and
being like,
yes.
this is cool, and this
Expressing
oh, that's
itself.
intriguing.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's the whole. That's what we're
To
doing
me, that's
here.
the most interesting part of it
Most
for
interesting,
sure.
exactly.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, people talk about artificial intelligence, which is just like you're just making extra words. Like, it's just intelligence. You know, like the universe is expressing itself always.
Yeah.
Why is what we created any different than what bees create when they make a beehive? You know, like that's
Yeah.
their technology. Are we going to damn that because it was like
Yeah.
bee made? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like us
Yeah, yeah,
creating the
totally.
internet
What-
was the universe creating itself through its expression through humanity and the internet, and it's like the internet tool, the interwebble algorithms
I'm totally using that interwebble.
are just like, you know, like paint pours of the universe's algorithm.
Yes.
You know,
As
like it's
above,
just
so below.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
So it's really funny and mind blowing to see like the time between the actions being made of me thinking of someone else or seeing a picture, whatever the reminder was that led to action, that led to reflection. You know, it used to take however long it took to like write a letter and send it to the person and have it reflected back or whatever. Like the time is quicker is my point.
Yes.
But like it's still the universe doing the algorithmic expression the way it's always
Now it's
done.
like, oh, you have created the literal mycelial pathways
Yeah.
for me to use, like I do nonetheless. You know what I mean? It's the same kind of thing when you think of the forest expresses that there is some kind of like awareness that it has of looking around. Either that or, you know, it's just, it has created so many, all the plants have made so many multitudes of themselves. They've mutated in every possible way. The strong directions survive. But there is some real, you can actually cite ways in which it is that a rainforest, whenever a tree falls and makes space in the dirt, that it only gives nutrients to the plants that at the end of their life are going to perfectly fill that spot where that one came from. And it doesn't compete with a ton of them. It just gives it the mycelial network and all that. No, outside of time, with this awareness that, yeah, this is going to be the one that is going to fill the spot and then reconnect all the ecosystems that depend on us doing that perfectly. We don't have the opportunity to, give enough nutrient to 10 different trees in this small area and then let that just figure it out. No, it's like it knows. And there's a weird way that also applies. It's like it knows. You need to get that reaffirmation of this person, you know, that you're like, oh, they searched you, or of this red sweater, of this thing, in order for you once again to be like, wow, I love being a tree in the forest.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to say that those
I like that.
levels of communication can't be hijacked through capitalism. It definitely is, but like capitalism is also not separate from nature, as that we as humanity, to your point, is not separate from nature.
Yeah.
And yeah, you said that it's almost like there's an awareness behind all of that. I had to do a quick calculation of like, I would say intelligence, maybe more so, but then I thought about it, I was like, why do I not want to say awareness? And yeah, I mean, I feel like that unconscious presence that I was speaking of earlier, the permanent aspect of
It's in everything.
That's in everything. You could call that awareness. You could call it intelligence. Call whatever you want. You know what I mean? Awareness to me like implied some sort of like witness, but then I don't know. I feel like
it feels like it is. There are sometimes when you're in nature and you're like, how would the hell that this moth be perfectly designed for this flower or like all these things? If there wasn't like this third thing that was like, hey, just like this, but really the third thing is actual trial and error, which is nature's way of figuring it out. But sometimes
just the infinite fractal.
It also sometimes feel like it isn't trial and error, because we've seen times in our life where like picked up the phone at the perfect moment, you know what I mean? And I would wonder how much of it is like there is this beautiful orchestrating that is making this is making it a little more magic than what would be random, and that's why we're like, this feels magic. It's just as above, so below. It's another place of expression.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or this is chaos, and who knows?
All the above. All the above. You know, like, I stray away from saying like orchestration, because that implies an orchestrator to me, and I don't feel like there's an entity. I don't think like there's a, like a loving godfather of the universe. It just feels like this is. I feel like it's just there's a, like you said, outside of time. There's everything. There's the moment. To me, like the moment is the yin, the void, the divine mother that holds all of the bullshit that occurs, and like within that bullshit is like a fractal that can't be separate from itself. So when there's like those evolutionary matches, you're just like, how are they so perfectly made for each other? Or us seeing the 1111, to me that 1111 is the universe saying like, we are one, like a bunch of ones, bunch of portals to just the moment, where it's all like happening and operating. And so those like perfect matches is like, it's a fractal. Like those are those fractal jagged puzzle pieces reflecting one another. And in the chaos, you could see it as chaos. You could, whatever. It's like it's all of it. It's whatever, which one we want to tune into.
Harmony and chaos. I feel that a lot. Like I've had a season of being very much in my like container. Like I've been in this apartment for a long time, for long stretches of time, where I've been able to like reflect. And I think that's like a duality that I've witnessed a lot, which is like I get sent into like anxiety because things aren't there's like that chaos, like things are just out of alignment. It's like, oh, this is so not perfect, because then you have moments that are like feel perfect. Like you have a perfect day and you're like, wow, I love my life, like it was a perfect day, one thing led to another, and like the universe was totally on my side. And then the next day the universe is like, here's like a hard lesson or a hard reflection. And that might feel like chaotic because it's not within your control or within like your preferences. But like no matter what, it's a combination. And so like I feel like my work as a human is to like optimize the combinations. So it's like I know there are going to be moments that are like uncomfortable or like challenging, but I also know that I'm kind of in control of the ratio, because I've seen my input play out different outputs, right? Like more perfect moments, more shitty moments.
I was gonna say, like I feel like if every moment is perfect, then it's not really perfect anymore. You need to have those imperfect things in order to appreciate the...
Well, maybe just contrasting. And then, I mean, probably the Ramdas argument there would be like, everything is, the path's always perfect. Everything is always perfect. But it's those parts that maybe you could be like, I'm going to blame you as my thing that makes it not perfect. It's perfect. It's like, oh, well, then it played in perfectly. And
and there's part of something.
Right. And the ego perspective of perfection versus like non-duality's perspective of perfection, like the dissonance, the growing pains. The ego doesn't enjoy dissonance or discomfort, but it's also required for the harmony to harmonize. You know what I mean? So it's like our perception of it, and then like
and then our willingness to actually take it on. Like I feel like in any trip, like any like psychedelic trip, that's like the first lesson you learn is like when you pull away from the discomfort, it gets worse. Because you're pulling away from it, you're not going to see it. Like, it's like the crying child within yourself. You're like, oh, I'm starting to get really uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. I need to freak out and, like, leave this thing. I need to fight it. Yeah, and then, but, like, the more, like, seasoned, like, individual might like go into it. Like I feel like ayahuasca is one where like you like can't escape. Like you can't really move or you'll throw up. Like you like can't. And that's why it's the most like, if you want to break some shit within you that like, you know, is really like some strong walls within yourself. Like that's a place where people have found results. And I think that's why, because you're like, you learn to surrender in a deep way, just like you would with like a deep trip of like any psychedelic that you take a lot of, where like you really like you're giving up, you're signing the form, you're like giving over your consciousness for the next X amount of time. And giving up that control is really uncomfortable, especially when something's like going to show you something dark or like make you feel something. And then when you actually like, it's coming back to Dune. We're going to bring it back to Dune because, okay, so like let's imagine like we're feeling into that, you know, like maybe it's a feeling in your belly or something, you know, you start to feel really like gross, icky feelings. You go into it, you pull it apart, you breathe. You go into it, you accept it fully, and then you're able to pull it apart and like really be a part of it, and then let it go because you held it, and then it feels held, and then it's now ready to be like released. Like it feels, it's been seen, it's been acknowledged, and I think that's something important that happens. And
she's referencing fear as the mind.
Yeah. Okay. So like, there's the quote in Dune. There's a quote in Dune where it's like, you know. The mom is like a high priestess, basically. She's like a trained woman of the women to do this shit. Like they literally have like a medicine that like is totally like ayahuasca, where like you drink it, you might die. And their whole training is like kind of to like have this really like refined sense of being. And so the quote is, fear is the mind killer.
Yeah, fear is the mind killer. It's the small death that brings total obliteration. But it's, the quote continues to say like, I see my fear before me and I move through it, and when I walk down the path that fear has led towards me and I turn around, I will see no fear behind me. I'll be the only thing that remains. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
And it's like, you know, fear is, it's just a mind killer. It's like
like it's almost like a fucking disease. Like your ego feels fear
virus,
and anxiety and all of that.
It's a thing you have to go through.
And the mind is not inherently bad. It just gets tricked and like confused, I think. Sure. And is like a weapon, right? Like if you use that weapon in the wrong way, and it could destroy itself. And
Totally.
yeah, like when you get all fearful and anxious of something, of discomfort or those icky things, and you're afraid, like that's gonna kill you. Like that's gonna create disease.
When it doesn't save you. You know, because that's the flip side of it. Like, that's the function of the tool of fear is to, like, survive.
Yeah.
No, it is. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
But it's been hijacked.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, that's
to be fearful of things that aren't
actual physical threats.
That if you can control that, and it is leading you in a direction, and that being the point, that if you can control that and go in the direction that fear, I'm afraid, but I must continue to walk this way. As you progress through your fear, you'll turn around. It's just you. That fear was just in your own mind, and maybe was somewhat necessary. Sometimes, for you to realize there's a thing I need to overcome, or I'm afraid of this, or like, I'm afraid right now. I'm gonna pull out my mace in my pocket. Yeah. Turn the corner. It's 11:11. Some guy jumps. And you were right. That suspicion in you, that manifestation, in you came apart. But now you were ready, and in the eye, and now that guy's having the worst 20 minutes of his life. You know what I mean? But, wow.
Yeah.
But it's that thing, or and if you rise to the consciousness inside of that moment, what all that is trying to define is actually the way of thinking of people that are the next level of humanity.
Yes.
That that group of women, they manicure genes and they meet people and they have a test that literally just separates you from an animal. And what the test is you think your hand's caught in a trap. And they literally, you put your hand inside of this thing and it feels like your hand's just not there anymore. And either you try and escape like an animal would and you gnaw your hand out of it, or you just bear it out.
Gotcha.
And you just,
I remember that.
It's just fear in you. You know what I mean? And then then you can find at the end, nothing. Your hand's fine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nothing happened to your hand. It was just all here.
It's like
Yeah.
mental training.
And they want to see if you can move through that.
I think. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say like our fear of the thing is often a lot more uncomfortable than the thing.
That too, yeah.
Especially when you can't see it. And mind you, in the realm of metaphysical, you can never see it.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
you're not there until it's upon you.
Yeah.
There's a woman on Instagram who was like 80, and she said things I wish I could tell myself when I was 30. And it was like 80% of the things you worry about will never happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw this.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, that's so
Yeah.
honest. That's so honest. Because like 20% of the shit you worry about probably might happen, you know? Especially if you're like attached to it and it's in your head.
True.
You know? But hopefully not, right? But like that's been calming for me in moments when I could worry more and put more, you know, quarters into the slot machine of worry.
Yeah.
And my chances of getting it would go up, right?
Yeah.
And I know that. I know that if I keep worrying about that I'm gonna merge into a lane and hit someone or someone's gonna hit me,
Mhm.
like that's like one that comes up for me. Like I'll be like, whew. But then I can like redirect to the moment and be like, come on, like really, I'll really convince myself that something will happen, and then I'm like scared and the fear. But then I'll be like, it's not really that valid because like chances are it's just not gonna happen, and that's like the chill in it all is like,
Yeah.
I can actually just like let that go because I'd rather just be like alert and accepting and like loving with the moment because like love is very present and like aware. It's not like neglectful where like I
Yeah.
feel like fear is like, hey, keep your hands on the wheel and be
Right.
really aware. It's like
Right.
not that because then you
Yeah.
can't respond as well. Like your like reflexes aren't as like agile when you're in that state maybe.
Mhm. And the love and the chill is also not grasping for things to be loving and chilling about. You know what I mean? Chill about.
Yeah.
Like I'll put it in terms of reality transurfing. I don't know if you guys have come across reality transurfing at all. It's like a magnetization, manifestation modality. One of the biggest things that I took from it was the idea of our levels of importance. And before you describe that scene in Dune, which I haven't seen, I know nothing about, I'm very intrigued. I was going to say something to the effect of like, it's the point of evolution where we start to evolve consciously, you know, whether it be manipulating genes and things like that, like technologically or internally. Yeah. And like taking on growth in a mindfully aware way rather than like chance. And that's what I was going to say about
Or
what you're
mutation.
saying. Yeah.
Which
Whatever.
is what
Maybe.
nature-
Yes. The slow, natural path of that.
Infinite
Now the
time.
natural path is that we are between the worlds of the physical and the dreaming, the etheric, you know, the
more
manifest
handmade.
and the non-manifest. So anyway, this idea, speaking of manifesting, which is one of those words that feels woo-woo, so I try to use other words. You know, I like to really think about it as like magnetism, like things that we attract, experiences that we attract into our vibe, or not, or repel.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that language more than manifest.
Well, Neville Goddard.
So the idea is that importance levels is that when we put a lot of importance, which is something that has a bit of a clingy, I would say a negative charge, you know, that when we, like, for instance, if it's a positive thing and we like really want it to happen, or if it's a negative thing and we really want it to not happen, we have, either way, that importance is like a negative charge. So the negative thing, we're more likely to attract that because that's two negatives attracting each other. And if we really want that positive thing in a clingy way, we're pushing it away because it's a positive charge and we're approaching it with a negative charge. So I feel like the love and the chill is like a positive charge. It's like, we have preferences of things that we desire to magnify or magnetize, materialize. But to not like, all right, I planted this seed, you know, that classic, like, plant a seed, and then you're like, do you dig into it? And like, oh, you chilling? Okay, cool, we're still chilling. You know, and it's like, no, I planted the seeds, I'm going to water them, I'm going to make sure they get sunlight and shit, but like, you know, I'm not going to freak out about them.
The important part is to
Thing.
let it be,
Yes.
Is that it does
Let
need
nature do
time.
its work as well. The unconsciousness, let the unconscious do its work.
Yeah.
We consciously chose to do the whatever.
Yeah.
And then, I feel like the programming and all the toxins and all the bullshit, all the psychic noise leads us to being like anxious and overly thoughtful about things that really don't matter, which is to say they don't materialize unless we water those seeds enough,
Right.
you know? So if we are nervous Nelly that's my vibe, then you're probably going to bring a lot of things to be nervous about into your vibe, you know?
Well, you can have a lot of shit magnetizing to you.
Yeah, a lot of shitty shit, yeah. So anyway.
That's why I feel like body centered, like you're talking about like all the stuff in the air, like all the stuff that's like not real. A good like salve for that is like coming into the body.
Yeah.
And that fucking is so hard to do when you're anxious. But if you can remember to do it and like switch that thing, or you have like a visual cue or reminder or a thing like, I think that's helpful.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's just that we haven't been taught those skills in a systematic way. So it's like we come across those skills through whatever the means of us coming into mindfulness was, whether it be you took psychedelics at a music festival and it freaked you so far up and down that you had to find tools, you know, or whatever other paths that maybe were slightly more graceful or something, or slower or something. You know,
It's like
we certainly weren't taught in school.
It's like maintaining that state, right? It's like you're in a psychedelic state,
practicing it,
and it's like a hyper-aware state.
Yeah.
And you could stay in that hyper-aware state, especially if you're like continuing to like reminisce or like ruminate on it.
Yeah.
And like figure it out. It's like no, like going from the mechanical like masculine logic brain of it all to like then the like feminine intuitive side, which I think a lot of people who like take a ton of something at a music festival come around to is like, I should be more like feeling, like I should really listen to my feelings more. Like that's what comes up. It's all like feelings. And then I think the tool to like actualize and like really take care of yourself and take care of your feelings is to like put meaningful action into like doing things physically, consistently, with care and like optimization. Like those are really important things to get you from like one state to the next.
Yeah,
like,
totally. Yeah, absolutely. So it's just like so beautiful for us to share our skills with each other on like mindful skills, you know, like what do they call it, regulating, like nervous system regulation, you know, that's just like getting in the body in intentionally positive ways.
More awareness.
Yeah. So I'm gonna bring it back to, you asked like an hour ago about like the trip of the weekend and stuff like that. Like I'll tie all that together to say like, I feel like there's been like anxious vibes. There's been like tuning too much into like the language of time, like the mechanics that we use to measure time and things like that. Like yesterday we just like we were up really late the night before, so we woke up later, still not having gotten a ton of sleep type of thing. So then I just felt like every time I looked at the clock, it was like a stressor. You know, and then I was like, are we gonna do the show and whatever and blah blah blah. So like making decisions has been a recurring thing for like our time together in particular, you know.
I think generally yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Beyond this trip.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's been an interesting thing, and like I mean even the decision whether or not we were gonna make a podcast, like time was a factor, feelings were a factor of all that. So it's like that's an example of like that I didn't really feel like doing it. I didn't feel like
same
putting up the things, and
but
like,
then you're co-creating, you know.
Exactly.
You have the feeling of me who, you know, might be in a different area.
Right.
And I think that, sorry to cut you off, but I feel like that ties back to the something we were talking about earlier with like having somebody that's going to challenge the thing and push the thing, because we kind of walked in here like, are we going to do the podcast or are we going to play the bean game? And you were like, well, I have all of this equipment and
which is a fun
we can
card game.
set it up and blah, blah, blah.
You got options,
and
you know.
So I feel like you pushed for it, and like I'm glad that you did. So.
Yeah, but you didn't push for it at the same time.
Exactly.
So
yes.
like, and you notice like I came into the room and I didn't say I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I was actually like on a level asking for encouragement.
I think you did say unless somebody
I said someone could motivate me.
Yeah.
And no one was heavy-handed about it. And it was funny, Madison, I feel like you noticed that I spoke that, and like I felt a bit of like, do you want to do this from you? And I was just like, well, I also trust the flow. You know, I trust the co-collaborative space, and like, it looks like we set the thing up. Looks like we're doing it. Looks like we're wrapping it up. I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? I'm accepting the process.
And then we come find shortly thereafter, one of us goes, so yeah, and you're like, no, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, sometimes we get to see the thing is you get a little, you're like, no, you get a nudge, and then you're the one carrying the torch.
Yeah,
You
I would
know
like
what I
to
mean?
clarify
And then-
that. Oh, sorry.
And then, hey, yeah, final point being, it gets passed around. You know?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, well, if you lit the flame, I'll put the first strides into this. Someone can take, okay, you know, and then we're like, okay, yeah, we're mutually walking down the road.
So
I was just gonna say, I don't think you were like heavy push, like forcing us all to, like pushing and like making us do this, and by any means, it was very a tasteful nudge. Which I will say, like I feel like last night also with going to the meditation thing was sort of the situation as well.
A tasteful nudge.
It was a tasteful nudge.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I
agree.
grabbed onto.
A tasteful nudge is a really great thing. At the right time,
Little tasteful nudge.
little tasteful nudge. Because
A caring nudge, you know?
A caring nudge.
You see that they want something that they also want to sabotage themselves from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, what ways can we see each other and like actually encourage like our, I won't say higher selves, but you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Our higher selves.
They're-
Their deeper selves. Your more authentic self.
That authentic self is like,
Yeah.
I want to do the thing though. You know, and it's like, okay, here's a little
Yeah.
encouragement.
And I commend the I don't know, because if someone's expressing to me that they don't kind of don't want to do something, I'm just like, okay, let's not do it because I don't want you to be uncomfortable. But and I think that sometimes it's like, you know, and that's kind of why I think I was drawing on the like
Wow.
challenging each other to do a thing, because like I think that's positive, and like a lot of times I want somebody to like be like, no, let's do it, or you know, give me that thing, which I don't feel comfortable giving to other people at times. So yeah, so
I have
going
a
back to
conversational takeaway now from this.
Tasteful.
what'd you say?
I have a conversational takeaway from that. I feel that's a great point. You've landed that all the way.
Okay. Well, I want to say one thing before, because I like to end episodes with asking if anyone has a takeaway and like anything that you want to highlight or anything that you didn't have a chance to say. And I just want to say that is such a good example of what we were speaking about earlier, about like that from the higher non-duality perspective, biggest picture, zoom out, we actually like grow from discomfort at times, you know, and the ego wants to be cuddled up and comfortable and like never be challenged. So like through skillful communication, how do we encourage each other and ask for encouragement when like there's an authentic spirit that wants a new groove, because it's so easy to just be slave to our grooves, you know, stuck in our patterns and things like that.
Yeah.
And the mental gymnastics of the things that we do to like sabotage ourselves. I'll speak for myself. The things I do to sabotage myself. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, there is
So,
a real
yeah.
part of our brain that grows from us doing the things that we didn't want to do.
Yeah.
You know, if we push ourselves to do something, it makes us grow in a way that only if you push yourself to do something does.
Yeah.
Totally.
You know.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear any highlights, takeaways, action steps, anything.
Feel comfortable in how to structure your caring nudge, because you just might find it leads you to a really nice conversation, a better understanding, or simply like just being like, yeah, I'm cemented in these feelings. I know that the way I'm perspectively looking at something is leading me in a way that I'm happy where I'm going.
Love it.
Yeah. I just appreciate this like format of like discussion, that there's like four of us. Like it feels like we've had a really like fun, balanced conversation, and like to your point, like I love hearing everyone's points of view, because we don't get to like talk in this like depth. And I think it's fun that you guys had this experience that we could kind of play off of, like, you know, like a meditation on a Saturday night. That was really fun to hear about. But yeah, just thank you for kind of continuing to like work with this format and like loving it. And you clearly have like a flow state in it. That's one thing I wanted to mention. Like we get in and out of flow state, and sometimes we have resistance to it. but you know, as soon as you sit down, everything's set up, you're going to do your meditation, you're going to get us in the right mindset, and like that seems like a flow state space for you that you've practiced. So I just want to like kind of like celebrate you for that, because that's cool to see.
Yeah, thank you.
I would say, which ties back into the like sort of stepping into the discomfort, but I think doing this felt like a little uncomfortable and like frightening to me, because I don't necessarily like, I don't know, like being on camera speaking isn't something that I feel super comfortable in. And I was feeling, because Shanti asked me prior about it, and I was like, nah, initially, and then I was like, why? Like, I'm just fearful of the thing. Like, I'm just gonna do it. Like, it's not going to be as bad as I, you know, like it can't be as bad as what I'm making it out to be. And that was sort of something that I sat with for a moment. And so I'm glad we did this. I think it's been like a really nice way to connect, and I've enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, me too. Super appreciate you guys. That was like really easy to flow with and really fun, and I feel like inspiring for at least the four of us for sure. And the last thing I was thinking of that I want to highlight is the acceptance component of what you're talking about with like the come up of a psychedelic trip, or like at one point I wanted to say, or life itself, you know, how many people are in the trip of existence in their come up still resisting the flow, right? So I feel like the acceptance piece is so crucial and vital, life-giving in that way, and just how that relates to the last thing that you were bringing up as far as that it takes dissonance to be in service of harmony. Like I said this to you guys at dinner the other night, like if we don't have awareness around our own internal dissonance, then we can't expect to show up in a community and have nothing but harmony and good times and good vibes only. You know, that's just not how life be lifing. So it'll give you a smack in the butt or face or otherwise.
But you're out of tune, dude.
Huh?
You're out of tune.
Exactly. Yes.
It's like building a culture that is like building a culture that understands that conceptually and can hold space for people not being in tune. And even just be like a little safety like net where it's like you can totally be uncomfortable right now. You can totally have like a negative kind of reflection moment. Yeah. And like if people could like do that and not take things personally, like I kind of see that in like other communities I work in where it's like that's like a trap, I think. I mean, we've all fallen into that trap, but like that's where I think like a community would thrive, is like to have that base understanding of just like how this whole thing works and like an agreement, because like we make agreements that like, you know, hold space if things like you start to have a bad trip or something.
Yeah. Or the conflict resolution is what I'm hearing, you know, specifically in a community, in a group, how crucial it is to have conflict resolution. Like, what do we have? I mean, now I'm just going to go on a whole nother topic tangent, but like, you know, in society, what do we have? We have for-profit prisons. Like, we have no example of healthy conflict resolution.
Restorative justice.
Yeah. In families, what do we have examples of? You know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah. We'll just leave it a big ... But you get what I'm saying. And like, I do feel called to like start to build that skill and to share that with people. And it's scary. I'm scared of it for sure. You know,
scary.
But to like bring.
But the universe loves it.
Yeah. That's well, it's so called for right now.
Yeah.
So it's being demanded.
And I think if we let it show up in our micro moments, like with people who are closest to us, it will ripple out.
Absolutely.
And that is our literal only accountability. Like, you cannot speak about politics. You have no fucking idea what's happening. None of us actually know what's happening.
We just have our own.
We're just fools if we let it consume us. You need to look at. I had this realization the other day. I'm like, my family is where I need to like focus first and foremost. That is like my genetic like lineage. Like that is like where I could make the most impact. Is like the love I could show them. So I'll get a wrap back. Tasteful nudges.
Yes. Like, yes, not from a place of criticism like you need to do this better, bro, but like I see you and I see you struggling and I want to see you in power, like
and really considering someone being like, what would a tasteful nudge look like?
And take your no's.
Huh?
Wait, what? And accept your no.
True. Except they're not open to it.
Yeah.
That's why like building that facilitating space, that platform for people to feel safe in.
Taking a no is a real important life skill.
Yeah.
But that nudge, that might be a no now, but it does make a difference. It is a drop in the
Can
bucket.
plant a seed.
Yeah.
And it's about
It's
you
still
too.
you
It's about
asking.
the seed you planted. I was honest in a moment.
Yep.
I was honest. I did my part. If you're not going to take it, that is totally fine.
Yep.
But I did my part, and I'm in alignment and integrity.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
think about what a tasteful nudge would look like with someone you love.
I like that.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Sandwich.
Thanks, guys.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw,
Dude, I looked at
motherfucker.
that at 90 minutes and was like, what?
Oh my god, that was full